What is up, guys? Politics Gaming here, and today we are back with episode 2 of the United Mexican States. Finally got that right. And today we are going to continue our little series here. Essentially, we're going to start focusing on reducing crime as a little bit of military spending will start to increase. As well, we're going to start checking up on our immigration situation a little bit, and we are going to start investing into manufacturing in Mexico. So first off, let's go ahead and check our deficit. We have a 2.72% excess right now, and our crime rate is on its way down. That is really good. However, we do want to kind of beware of any sort of increase. Usually whenever I have played in Mexico, we have suffered a large increase in crime, in which we almost become #1 in the world in terms of the crime homicide rate per 100,000 inhabitants per year. So this is a number that we very much want to keep on track, keep going down. So we are going to institute a large increase in manpower for our police forces. This is going to be an extraordinary step for the government of Mexico in order to stop the crime wave and ensure that the crime does not return upward. And as well, we're going to do a massive investment into public safety and as well as highway patrol to start reducing car accidents on the road. And we're going to do a little bit more funding for securities and exchange. Drug task force will receive a little bit more funding. Corruption is a huge issue in Mexico as of right now. We're going to fully fund our internal affairs department, and as we want to centralize Mexico, we will increase funding to the local district police, and then that we do have a fight against pedophilia measure that we can increase. We will go ahead and fully fund that measure right there. Sexual violence is a huge issue in Mexico. We very much want to reduce that. We will go ahead and fund it by 4 more stars. Illegal immigration is still a massive issue as of right now, and we are a hub for transit. In terms of immigration, we are going to start increasing our fight against illegal immigration, and then we're going to reduce funding to political police. We're going to increase funding to the Vice Squad, and then Cybersecurity Task Force. We will receive 3 more stars worth of funding, and the Security Service of the Head of State we will increase by 3 stars. This is a total increase of spending of $17.93 billion, just short of $18 billion. Let's actually go ahead and cross the $18 billion mark, and we'll go to $18.7 billion as of right now. This is, again, an unprecedented amount of spending that we are going to institute into our police forces. This reduces our excess to 1.44%. That is a expected measure. Let's go ahead and see the reaction to that right now. And we do see massive protests against that. So demonstration against the government's xenophobic attitude is a factor in these protests. And any political disinterest in motor racing is another factor in these protests. 35,000 people are protesting in support of motor vehicles, and over 100,000 people are protesting in support of against xenophobic attitudes. Let's go over to environment, see what we got over here. We have a reforestation measure that we can start increasing funding to. We will go ahead and do that. We also need to go over to farming. We're going to go over to budget. We're going to go ahead and do 5 stars for the assistance for converting to food farming, and we're going to fully fund food safety in Mexico. This is going to be a big thing that we would like to go ahead and start off with, and then we are going to, number 1, aim for a $100 billion agriculture GDP in Mexico. This is going to be that way we probably can start increasing exports of food out of Mexico, but then we want to start reducing imports. We probably will be expecting that we are going to be importing a lot more in terms of industrial goods for our economy. So exports we possibly could see go up, mainly because of export contracts. But then imports, maybe we will see, I would probably say 150, $200 billion could be the roundabout number of imports, but it kind of depends on what we start to build, essentially. Now, what we want to do right now is we want to go ahead and find something to subsidize. Subsidizations is going to help us out in terms of employment and as well as growing the sector. $200 million will be going over to the water supply networks, and then we want to go over to steel. Steel will go ahead and receive a $300 million subsidy. And then we are going to go over to, we do not have rare earth oxides. That is very unfortunate for Mexico, because I do actually like to invest in that, so that's going to be something we need to import. Pharmaceutical companies, we could actually start to try to increase this sector, go ahead and subsidize and as well as exonerate that sector from taxes, and then we will raise those taxes whenever this sector starts to get on its feet. Electrical materials will receive about $250 million worth of subsidies, and we'll go ahead and exonerate this sector as well. Electronic components will receive $400 million in subsidies, and we will go ahead and exonerate that sector as well. And then what else could we do? We want to go ahead and start increasing computer hardware. This will receive about $150 million worth of subsidies. And again, $2 billion is actually a little bit substantial, but not too substantial. Chemicals, we could increase our subsidies there. Let's go ahead and do $500 million, $500 million to the chemical industry. We will not exonerate it, as it raises about $15 billion worth of profits. We do not want to exonerate ourselves from those types of taxes instead of our tax revenue. Building, housing, and roadway construction, let's go ahead and do a hefty $1 billion of subsidies to road, the construction sector is essentially what it is. That reduces our excess to 0.95%. We will also increase cement production, and this one, $1 billion, we'll go ahead and exonerate the sector. Actually, shouldn't actually hurt us too bad. Automobile construction, we will go ahead and do $500 million there as well. $11 billion, we will not exonerate the sector unless that actually dips below $10 billion. I think we'll actually start getting worried if it were to dip below $11 billion. So if we lose about $150 million in automobile construction, we probably should be a little worried. Household appliances, we will go ahead and increase our subsidies here to $200 million. And then perfumes and cosmetics. I think that should be it for our industrial subsidies and services. Let's go over to services. Numerical infrastructures, hotel, tourism, and trade. Go ahead and exonerate that sector right here, and then we will raise those exonerations whenever we see fit. We'll give it a $300 million subsidy. That way we can go ahead and start raising money for that sector. We'll do a $100 million subsidy for urban transportation, and then air transportation, attraction parks. Let's do a $50 million subsidy for attraction parks, and we will go ahead and exonerate them from taxes. Films, yes, let's create some quality Mexican films, guys. Road transportation, railway transportation, publishing, services, wow, $72 billion, $364 billion sector for services. And energy, let's go ahead and look at energy, see what we've got here. Nuclear generated electricity will be completely nationalized. We'll go ahead and nationalize this entirely, and I think we're going to go ahead and do this into a reform, and this reform will be called the Energy Nationalization Act. Nothing too original there, but that will help us out in order to raise money for the government. I'm kind of surprised that oil is not completely nationalized. Well, it's kind of partially nationalized. I don't know if Pemex is still a huge thing in Mexico. Then really, I know that was a big thing back in the 70s, but I don't really know the current state of Pemex right now. Coal could, we could nationalize it and then, you know, get rid of it, obviously. I do see that there is a riot in Mexico City. We'll go ahead and go to this riot and we will deal with it. So you will see me after I deal with this riot. All right, and we are back. Let's go ahead and go over to Army. We have 50,000 people in our military. This is a very much insufficient number of people that we can use to defend Mexico. We're going to increase that by 200,000 people. We're going to go ahead and enlist as many people as we can. I think the number of people we would like to have is around 500,000 to 700,000 in our career soldier ranks. This will be probably more than sufficient amount of people to draw onto in order to conduct operations across Central America and abroad if we ever needed to. Let's go ahead and confirm that choice, and we are going to see that. And so what we will also do, we'll go to our national industry. We will call for a equipment purchase, and what this will do, we will call for about another 500,000 weapons to be delivered to Mexico. And essentially what we want to do is we want to increase the amount of people that we can be able to call upon if we ever again needed to. So this is more for the general mobilization. This is the total amount of people in the Mexican regular forces that we can essentially call upon if the situation absolutely required it. So that's a complete difference between reservists and mobilization. Mobilization is essentially you're calling upon regular citizens. So essentially, like if you're sitting on your computer and you get a letter in the mail one day basically saying, hey, you need to go ahead and show up to this area, we're going to evaluate you, and if you are fit, then you will essentially serve military service. However, there is no way that I know of right now that you can manually increase your reserves. I wish there was a way to do that. I don't really necessarily know a way to do that as of right now, but the best thing that I like to do right now with this new equipment for military feature, I really like to have as many as I can. So I think the goal for this is going to be at least 3 to 5 million that equipments essentially would be the most sufficient amount of people that I could call upon. If, you know, obviously I don't think the United States is going to invade me, but, you know, maybe if China decides to, you know, do something funny to Los Angeles or something like that, then we would be able to sufficiently send a good amount of people over abroad if we ever needed to get involved in a conflict. It's essentially kind of like they're on a back order, like just in case we need it, hopefully we don't need it, is the idea behind that. Let's go ahead and see what these protests are about. People do not like the calling of 200,000 people to be joining into the military. So government policy, that is the Pacifists Union. Obviously, they're the best group inside of this game. Services, environment, finance, and our growth rate right now is 2.83%. GDP is kind of stationary right now, but it is on its way up. It was actually kind of funny because whenever I was it was actually kind of funny. There was a moment, I don't really know what caused it, but essentially my expenditures jumped by about $200 billion for some reason. And so I had like a 12% deficit for like 3 days until it finally kind of calmed down and kind of equalized. Essentially, debt reimbursement is on its way down, even though my debt is on its way up. Again, that is something that we are expecting as of right now. We have raised our debt about $100 billion, $105 billion has been added to our debt. Most of this being owed to ourselves. However, we are owing the United States, Germany, United Kingdom, India, Canada, in India, Canada, Russia, we owe $57.2 billion, and France, $6.41 billion. Speaking of Russia, let's go ahead and check on the situation over here, and that is a lot of missiles. Wow, you're getting a little bit of a funny type of idea here. That is the situation over here. Let's go ahead and see the losses as of right now. 49,623 have been lost on the Ukrainian side, and 152,588 have been lost on the Russian side. 5,504 have deserted from the Russian side, and 448 have deserted from the Ukrainian side. So very heavy losses on both sides. However, the Russians are choosing to essentially have the brunt of the attack from the Ukrainians, and they are continuing. It seems like that they're not able to advance. However, they have advanced into Mykolaiv, and they continue to occupy Kherson. However, Odessa continues to be Ukrainian, and Zaporizhia is under Russian occupation. Kramatorsk is under Russian occupation, as well as Sloviansk, and then Severodonetsk is under Russian occupation right now as well. However, Kharkiv is still Ukrainian, as well as Dnipro. Usually a little bit further into the year, probably by like 2024, I usually do see that the Russians push so deep into Ukrainian territory. I think they usually kind of sign a peace deal. Usually the Russians kind of occupy or kind of annex all of eastern Ukraine. Sometimes Kherson is a little disputed, so you don't really see that big land bridge that you usually expect. But I think the last couple of times I've been essentially seeing it going to a white peace, where the Ukrainians essentially occupy the lands that they had post 2014, with the exception of Crimea. We do want to expand our trading partners. We don't solely want to trade with the United States. I would like to expand some sort of trade network into Europe as well as Asia. We don't want to be afraid to trade with China unless they do something stupid that we probably don't want to get involved in as Mexico. We are a very neutral nation. However, we will have a stance on it if it were to ever happen. So that is something that we want to kind of pay attention to. We will not be afraid to trade with China, with the People's Republic of China. However, we will be playing both sides. We will be doing a little bit of interaction, a little bit of trading with the Republic of China, and we will not be dissuaded by the bigger China in terms of any kind of trade occupations that we want to pursue. Australia could also be another good trading partner as well. We could start some import contracts from the Democratic Republic of the Congo. We do have some pretty good relations with Niger. We do see Tanzania could be an option, as well as South Africa. Burma or Myanmar has very good relations with us. We could actually possibly consider a free trade agreement with them. Japan kind of has a little bit bad relations with us. However, I think that's more of the political ideology dispute rather than an economic or military issue. So go ahead and play this right now, and we will continue to see what happens. I want to go ahead and get to the end of the month. We'll go ahead and see the quarter, and we're going to end this episode there. Usually what I like to do, we like to move through the quarter of the episode. Essentially, it's kind of like quarter by quarter. I do want to get these episodes out every week, so I will mainly try to stick to a schedule of every Wednesday. Every Wednesday will be the goal for this, so hopefully this video goes up by Wednesday. I do work from Monday to Thursday, very much been keeping to that schedule, so I very much hope that I am able to keep to that schedule of Mexico, making sure that we can get an episode out every week on Wednesday. Immigration, let's go ahead and check, see what's going on here. Immigration rate is going up. We do want to see if we can increase our immigration rates. That is going to be a goal of ours. Essentially, we do want to start increasing the amount of detention centers that we have. So we could go for about 50 of these. So 50 detention centers. And then 15,000 people. Detention center is a facility for holding illegal immigrants before they are deported to their home country or released following administrative or judicial action. The duration of detention is limited to a maximum of several months. Their effective functioning depends heavily on the number of spaces available. So let's go ahead and confirm that action. We have over 107 on the way. Carry on a massive regularization operation. We could regularize 300,000 people right now. Illegal immigrants seem to have been going down. We kind of dipped it down to about 1.1 million people, and it's actually on its way up now. So that's going to be some sort of issue in the future. We do have pretty soft regularization and naturalization agreements, essentially. We could actually do regulate family unification. We could do simplified and expanded, which is going to siblings and parents. Just Soli is recognized without conditions in Mexico. We could start doing some diplomatic pressure on places like Guatemala. Essentially, what we could do is that we could do a tightly controlled visa, but this will not stop illegal immigration, but it could stop any sort of kind of just stop people from kind of coming in. Guatemala is a huge hub for illegal immigration coming in from Southern America, which if we can actually go ahead and look, we'll go over here, Guatemala, and go over to Mexico and open again. If we see right here, illegal immigration takes up about 96% of our immigrants into the country. We have a very small amount of other people, including we have students, we have family, we have work people, we have humanitarians, we have others, and then we have returning nationals, in which includes students at the end of their studies abroad. And then we have immigrants, people who are leaving the country. 90% of those that are leaving the country are leaving illegally. So essentially, they're coming in illegally and they are leaving illegally. This is a 1.53 million people are coming into the country and 1.6 million are leaving the country. However, we did see that illegal immigration was on its way down, and then now all of a sudden it's kind of on its way up. So that could be the situation, meaning that further economic pressure in places like Venezuela and Guatemala, that could be the reason why. We could sign a immigration agreement, which we will actually consult real quick. I'll go ahead and play this while we kind of wait a little bit. Guatemala, so we want to do, we have another riot. Go ahead and pause this real quick. Facilitation of return of illegal immigrants. We have the specific reinforcement and surveillance and control at the Guatemalan border with Mexico. And we could also receive and detain specifically immigrants in transit in Guatemalan territory while waiting a response for asylum. So because there is so much illegal immigration coming in from Guatemala, that is why that it is so expensive. So we could sign I'm gonna go ahead and sign a $5 billion contract with them, and we will see what will happen. So we will sign a $5.5 billion contract. That will be it. I think we're also gonna try. Now they're gonna refuse it because they probably don't want to send people out. But we will go ahead and try to get a lock on the situation. Cyber attack has happened against Mexico real quick. $5.5 billion have already been lost in economic activity. Huge loss right now. That means that we need to invest in our cybersecurity. That is something that I usually do, and that is something that we have failed to do. So we are now suffering the consequences of such actions. Total paralysis.
Trains, ships. Everything is stopped. Our central power grids are down. It's widespread panic. The cost is going to be high. And for us as well. We have failed terribly. We haven't been capable of protecting our country from this kind of attack. In terms of communication,
Alright, lots of instability going on in Mexico as of right now. We do have a riot that is underway, so we'll go ahead and skip ahead to the end of the... Alright, and our approval rating right now is 90%. Having a little bit of trouble right now, lots of political instability, lots of economic instability. We have lost nearly $10 billion in this cyber attack, and Guatemala has refused our immigration agreement. We cannot accept your proposal for the following reasons. We do not consider ourselves a country of transit for illegal immigration. That is a lie. That is very much, you know for a fact that you are a transit hub for illegal immigration. You know for a fact it is, and that is where most of my illegal immigrants are coming from. Actually, the second amount of illegal immigrants are coming from Guatemala. You are definitely a transit hub for illegal immigration, and your country has more illegal immigrants than ours. So that is the reason why they were refusing to work with me. I think the response that we could do in against Guatemala will be over here. Determine policy on issuing visas. We'll go ahead and start tightly controlling Guatemalan entry into Mexico with quota. So we will start putting some diplomatic pressure on Guatemala for not working with us. That could damage relations a little bit right now. However, controlling immigration, people actually kind of like that. Cyber attack on our country returned to more normal. Estimate of losses, $9.56 billion have been lost in terms of GDP. We'll go ahead and start making sure that we are on top of our cybersecurity needs, and we will go ahead and come over to SMR type nuclear reactors is a good scientific discovery, and that actually added about 5% in approval to us, so that is good. And let's go over here, and our windmills are about 15 days from being completed, so that'll be done on June 5th. Or July 5th. We will go ahead and go to the month of July, and we will see what happens in terms of how much money we are going to be able to pay off of our debt. So the quarterly update of our treasury reserve will happen, so we may incur some debt, or we could get some surplus, and we will be able to pay off some debt or even use it on a highway or two. If we actually get enough money, I want to build a couple of ports. We definitely need to start increasing the amount of ports that we have. We only have, how many? We have one single port in all of Mexico, and that is the Cayos Arcas. So we very much need to build a port down here. We need to build a port over in Tepic, and then we will also build a port over by Tijuana. So we need to build a port, at least 2 ports along the Gulf of Mexican coast, and maybe like 3 ports along the Pacific coast. That way we can definitely start hitting some trade hubs all across the Pacific Ocean and our European partners as well. We'll go ahead and go to the month of July, and I'll see you guys there. Alright, and we are back, and we see right here $32 billion has been added to the treasury. That is a huge amount of money to spend. So we could pay off a little bit of debt. We have enough money that we could actually pay off a little bit of interest of our debt. And then what we could also do, maybe we can pay off the United States a little bit. We could actually go over to the United Kingdom, negotiate negotiate a lower interest rate as well with India. Who do we owe the most interest to? We owe the most interest to India, Russia, and the United Kingdom. The United States actually doesn't even charge us an interest rate right now. So very interesting situation going on in terms of our interest rates. So we need to start working with India and Russia to kind of start lowering our costs of interest. What we could also do in the next episode, we're going to go ahead and start focusing a little bit on health. What I also did earlier without, I don't think I showed y'all, what we did is that we did increase the amount of teachers by about 100,000. So if you actually look over here, we had 1.1 million teachers, and we now have 1.2 million teachers. So a focus of Mexico will be to very much invest into education. We will also try to start signing some bilateral agreements for foreign exchange students, especially with the United States. Hopefully the United States could actually accept us, and more. And then maybe in the future, I mean, maybe we can have a space mission or two. Let's actually go ahead and look. So we do actually have a space program, so we could actually work with the United States to try to do a satellite, or we could work with the ESA a lot more. So we actually would have to work with them, mainly because we do not have our own space launch facility. But other than that, we are on our way to increasing the amount of people in our career soldiers. We have 75,000 people right now in our military ranks. And the next episode, I would like to increase our reserves of missiles, of mortar rounds. We probably should have at least 100,000 mortar rounds. To be a little bit more comfortable. I want to start modernizing our military. We would like to start having more rank 2 and rank 3 tanks. Missile launchers is a necessity, so we would like to have at least a couple dozen missile launchers. Anti-missile batteries is very efficient, especially to protect our troops and our infrastructures. Cannons will be useful in any sort of like close range type of scenario, especially, you know, if we want to march down south a little bit. I think what one plan will be is to annex Guatemala peacefully. Usually I see that Guatemala is up for grabs in this option right here. This is the proposed annexation of a sovereign country. No country currently wants to relinquish their sovereignty. The countries more likely to take that step would be smaller states undergoing a regime change. Usually what I like to see is countries close to me that would make sense for me to annex, and Guatemala usually does show up to be able to be annexed as the United States. So in order to, number one, get a grasp on the illegal immigration situation, and as well kind of improve our economy a little bit and the situation in Central America, we could actually start to peacefully annex our way south. We could try to say Guatemala will be annexed into Mexico, and then Honduras, El Salvador, Nicaragua, Costa Rica, and Panama could all become part of the United Mexican States. So very, very interesting stuff right now. I think one thing I will do before I go, we'll go ahead and start all of this now. Go ahead and do a highway from Mexico City to Puebla. Puebla and Mexico City are huge cities that are right next to each other. Puebla is actually very famous because it's right next to a volcano, and there are a lot of churches in Puebla, as I have heard. So we will go ahead and fully invest into this. This will be, you know what, we'll actually get it done 20 people per kilometer, and this will be done in 3 months. That'll cost about $1.07 billion of our treasury reserve, and we will figure out what to do with the rest in the next episode. Guys, go ahead and leave a like, subscribe to the channel if you are new. If you guys want to see more content, hit that bell notification icon so you don't miss anything whenever I do make it to the channel. If you guys want to see more United Mexican States, go ahead and again comment down below where your thoughts are, what you think you want to see in the series. And I cannot wait to make more of this. I'm very excited to be back to making series for Power and Revolution, and subscribe to the channel for more content on any political games, as well as World Warfare and economics, any news on Power and Revolution, and any upcoming games that have to do with politics or geopolitics. Without further ado, thank you guys so much for watching this with me. Thank you guys for being here, and take care.